So my project is called The Coronavirus Family, Navigating Family Life During a Pandemic. And I chose this because, like so many other students in the country, I had to suddenly return home because of COVID-19. And it wasn't easy for me because spring quarter was supposed to be my last quarter at UC Santa Cruz, and I didn't get to say goodbye to a lot of people because I thought I'd be coming back. On top of that, when I got home, I had to figure out how to continue being a student and remain focused, even though I was doing everything from my bedroom. I saw a lot of behavioral changes in myself, so I was a lot more irritable, I was anxious, I was missing my friends, and overall I felt really alone. And one day I was talking to one of my friends, and she also mentioned that she was feeling irritable and she was lashing out, and I realized that it's not just me, and other students are struggling too. And all of a sudden I wanted to know about how other students were navigating this difficult time. So I started reading a lot of articles, and some of these articles were written by parents, and they talked about how these parents were navigating having all of their kids under one roof again. And the rest of the articles were advice for parents who had all their kids back. But overall, all these articles kind of had the same idea that students and their families were struggling with all being home again. And when I interviewed the 9 students that I chose to interview, I found that what they were saying actually matched what the articles were saying, and that everyone was struggling. One of the things that I learned was that these students have this feeling that they're back in high school again. Without being prompted, 6 out of 9 students brought up high school on their own and how they felt like they were high schoolers again. And most of this stemmed from the lack of independence that they have when they're at home. So normally at college, they have all the independence, they make their own decisions, but all of a sudden at home, they're taking care of their siblings and doing chores and eating what their parents want them to eat and abiding by curfews. Which is hard for students to suddenly adjust. But what I did ask them was, you do this stuff during summer breaks and Christmas breaks, so what makes this different? And what they said was, there's usually a light at the end of the tunnel. Right now, we don't know how long we're going to be at home. We don't know how long we're going to be doing school from home. We don't know if we're ever going back to college, which totally changes what's going on. And on top of that, you're throwing academics into the mix. So now students are trying to figure out how to navigate being a student while their siblings are also doing schoolwork from home, and their parents are also working from home, and it's a thing that the entire family has to figure out together. Another thing that I learned is that students are actually really struggling on focusing on the positives. So I asked the 9 students, what are some ways that your parents supported you? And only 2 of them were able to give me good answers. They said things like, my parents are trying not to stream Netflix so the internet remains fast, or my mom made a sign for my door. But the other 7 students couldn't really give me much more than there's a roof over my head and there's food on my table. Their focus was more on the anxiety that comes with the fear that your mom is going to walk into the room while you're in class, or your parents are going to be yelling at one of your siblings and the whole Zoom class will hear it because your mic's on. So that's kind of where their attention lies, which makes sense because when times are tough, sometimes it's just easier to focus on the negatives. But that's where I'm going to stop talking about things I learned. There are other things I talk about in the written version. So for example, I do talk about mental health and the LGBTQ+ community, among other things. But for the sake of time, I'm going to talk about why this research is really important. So already some schools have decided that fall quarter or semester is going to be online, which means a lot of students are going to remain at home and continue doing their schoolwork from home. And it's already tense and it's already stressful, and it's going to continue being tense and stressful until we start a dialogue and students and parents start communicating. And I think research is a part of that. It helps us understand what's going on, and it helps us come up with solutions for what's going on. It's a difficult time. It's a brand new situation for us. It's hard for as students, it's hard for our parents, and I'm sure it's hard for the university as well. So the sooner we start research and the sooner we start communicating, I think the sooner we'll come up with solutions. Thank you for listening.